Hello and welcome to Good Enough Scenery, and today I am taking you through part 4 of how I made this modular board. And this is the modular hill, so everything raised on the board is covered in this video. Just the construction of it, the painting and the flocking will be covered separately. So this is the two river hills and the four-way modular hill. We're going to start with the taller of the river hills, which I'm calling Hill 1, Higher River Hill. Fascinating. So this is one of the corner river tiles with another board next to it, and then adding a hill as part of the design. So I started with a chunky 50mm bit of foam, and I quickly realized when using this handheld hot wire cutter that that wasn't going to be big enough to cut the size that I needed. So off camera I cut out a rough shape using the table hot wire cutter, which went a lot better. And most of what you're going to see for the rest of this is me making the shape a bit more interesting to me, kind of sometimes making it a little bit smaller, or just generally making it more playable. And what do I mean by more playable? Well, it needs to have a kind of needs to have models actually be able to go on it. But once I had the vague shape in mind like this, what I did was I put a couple of marks at the point where it would need to be cut, and then just started carving into it. That step there was me putting it through the table hot wire cutter at an angle, so we had a nice slope for models to be able to climb up onto the top of the hill. And then whenever you're cutting with a hot wire cutter, you end up having kind of these ridges which kind of just naturally occur when you're doing it, but they wouldn't really naturally occur in nature. So I went across with a sharp knife and a kitchen knife just to kind of smooth these off and make the whole thing look a little bit more random, shall we say, a bit more like a hill might actually look. And then once I had that position clear in my head and had the thing shaped how I wanted it to, I took another block of foam, because I wanted there to be a rock on top of the hill, just as a little bit of cover, something a little bit different, make it a bit more interesting. So I just carved a random shape out of this this chunk of foam here. Ended up kind of having a higher bit and a lower bit, and then I decided that it should split down the middle and span across the two boards. So I also cut it in half, which was just with the kitchen knife, I believe, so that it could be half on one board and half on the other, just like I'm showing you there. That was well timed. Well done me. Completely fluky. From there, I just wanted to finish off the final shaping of it. I wanted to put an overhang on the cliff, so I did it with the handheld hot wire cutter, as you're seeing like that. And just the final finishing touches in terms of shaping it, which you're seeing here, and then going over all of the surfaces with my favourite tin foil, which adds rolled up bit of tin foil, just creates this kind of rocky texture. So it ended up looking like that. So that's basically finished, and then I cut it in half on the hot wire cutter, so that there you go, ta-da! Final thing to do was to just draw around that part of it, and then roll it again with roll out the bit that I hadn't drawn around with that tin foil, just to get it looking nice and rocky as well. And then sticking it down. So to stick it down with all of these modular hills, I'm using something called instant nails. There's all sorts of different products with similar names. It isn't instantaneous. It is a nice strong bond though, and you don't want it to be instantaneous, because the most important thing here when you're gluing it is accuracy. You really want to make sure that the line of your hill lines up with the line on the tile, so that when they come together, they look as close to one piece as they possibly can. And yeah, it's well worth spending some time. I'm rushing through this in terms of the video edits. It's not very interesting to see me millimetrically move around bits of foam, but yeah, that's what you end up doing, just trying to get it absolutely perfect. I'd recommend a glue gun for sticking down other pieces. For some reason I used instant nails, probably because it was to hand rather than it being everything it should be. Hey, on to Hill 2, which I'm calling the Lower River Hill, and this is more simple in design. For this, I just took a 20mm bit of foam and cut out a random sloped mound kind of shape, just with a hot wire cutter. That was kind of a minute of cutting, spanned down to just 5 seconds, and just carved different shapes into it and moved it around until I felt like it was, I don't know, you just get a feeling about when something is right. So I moved it around until it felt like it was in the right position, and roughly where you're seeing it there is how I decided it should be. But me being me, I decided there should also be a rock on top of this, so I found a chunk of foam and carved it into a rock shape. And once I got it into the shape I wanted it to be, I then took my favourite tin foil and rolled it across the whole thing. Basically, across the whole board, any rocky surface has been rolled with a tinfoil roll, just to kind of make it look more rocky. And I've also done most of the flat surfaces as well, just because they're more interesting if they're kind of earthy looking rather than it being something which is just smooth foam. And once again, to do the lower hill, some instant nails to glue the riverboard down, making sure that you get that absolutely perfectly against the edges, and then just simple as just sticking it down and lining up the lines with the other lines, just making sure everything's nice and parallel, and then it ends up looking something like it looks there. And once again, I probably should have used a glue gun for the rock to be stuck down, but once again, I didn't. I mean, it's not like it didn't stick using instant nails. It's just probably better to use a glue gun because you don't have to be as accurate or millimetrically detailed. And finally, we have the 4-way hill. So this is a chunky old 50mm bit of foam, making sure I'm giving it roughly the right size. I'm using it as much as the board as I can here. So I had a shape in mind, and then I'm drawing some upward arrows to remind myself that I want to slope it up. Now, if you're cutting a big bit of foam like this and you don't have to be too accurate, you can just score a fairly deep line and just snap it. And let me tell you, that is quite a satisfying thing to do. Then once I'd done that, I took the 20mm boards, the ones that can be mounted on, and drew out exactly where to cut it. And then cut it I did, but before doing that, I went around the base of the tiles and rolled it with tin foil, of course. Now, I've put that line on the screen to show you that that's the angle that the wire on my hot wire cutter was for cutting these out. I'd never tried it at such a ridiculous angle before, but I wanted to try it with this because it's nothing more annoying than having a hill tile or some hilly scenery that you put your models on, you spend ages painting, and they keep falling over. So I wanted to try and make this as flat as possible. So first of all, I went through at the angle that it was, and then by kind of holding it up and tilting it as I am, as you can see, I was able to make it even more of a kind of flat angle. So we wanted to be, well, some of it I wanted to be nice and smooth, and some of it I wanted to be a bit more cliff-like. So I'm just going backwards and forwards across different areas, just trying to make it nice and smooth. You can see those ridges I was talking about, those need to be smoothed out, and so like I did before, just take some sort of sharp blade. Don't need any force going through the knife at all. It's just it just cuts through it like a knife through foam, because that's what it is. And then I rolled it with some foil and matched it up to the tile it was going to be next to, and then drew a line so I could see where it needed to be cut roughly, so that the two tiles matched up. And what I did here was actually, because I had a line I could work to, I actually worked by pulling the foam towards me rather than the foam pushing away from me, which was an interesting way to work, and it worked absolutely fine, actually better than fine. So just cut a bit of it off so that I had that kind of vaguely matching up, then held the two tiles next to each other, and then I worked on making as good a join between the two as I could. So this involved kind of carving some of it out with a knife, rolling it with the foil, and just doing that on both sides, because I think that with the gaps between tiles, what you can either do is you can either try and hide them as well as possible, or you can make a feature of them. So this one I'm trying to make more of a feature of it, but you're never going to make all of the lines disappear. So you either they get lost when you're actually immersed in the game, that you kind of get lost in it anyway. So it doesn't matter too much about the lines, in my opinion, and I like having the modular aspect of the board. So it's personal preference, really. So as you saw, I did the same thing with the next tile and then the next tile after that as well. So I'm going more into a vertical here. So I wanted to make a more cliff-like join between. So it's going from like a nice flat angle to there being a kind of more sheer part of it. And on this particular tile, I wanted there to be a kind of upslope that was kind of cliffy at the edges. So once again, I took advantage of the nice flat wire there and cut out this. And I'd never tried this before either, and you'll see it better here. Worked really well as like an upslope that was kind of sheltered on the side slightly. And having played a few games on this board since making it, it's a really nice tactical feature. Nice little bottleneck that feels quite natural. So once again, I'm holding the two tiles next to each other there to make the join as smooth as possible, and then going around the rest of the. I think that's the second tile that I started, but you know, not the final one that I'm doing. The final one that I'm doing. Now, once again, just going around any kind of angles that feel unnatural with a sharp knife, just smoothing them off, making them look more jagged rather than the 90 degrees that they end up being when you cut them, and then rolling and rolling and rolling with the tin foil. Got through a fair amount of tin foil on this, but it's worth it because you end up with a nice smooth thing. So essentially, some of it is rocky faced, which then gets rolled with the tin foil, and some of it is not. And finally on this, just gluing those 4 pieces down. So once again, instant nails, making sure everything joins up nice and correctly at 90 degrees. And this is the final product that you're heading towards, or I'm heading towards, or I did head towards. If you've enjoyed this, please hit the like button, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you know when new videos are arriving. The next one will be on painting and flocking, so hopefully you will look forward to that, and that will be out very soon. Thanks very much.